I was trying to decide what was the first story I wanted to share. Something from when I was a young girl, something when I was a young woman, something when I was married, divorced, moving through the world, um, in a new state. All of those things are interesting, and I will share all of those stories. But I wanted to start with something a little bit closer, a little bit more recent. And that story is, again, one of my wonderful museum trips because I always do those. I am fortunate enough that I do live in the Los Angeles area, and we have lots of museums for the girl to have her museum day. And I was thrilled when I found out last year that Camille Claudel, one of my favorite French sculptors, they were doing an exhibit of her work at the Getty Center. I was like overjoyed and like in my brain trying to calculate how they were going to get that stuff across the water because she's got some beautiful pieces and they were going to be here. And I was excited. I was thrilled. I was overjoyed. If you're familiar with LA, you know traffic is a thing, it's a whole situation. And so whenever I plan a museum trip, it's all calculated around how can I get there and back without going crazy. Okay. So the first thing is you go after rush hour and hope to be on the back end of rush hour traffic. And you leave before rush hour starts again. So you have a very short window to do what you need to do, unless you decide to hang out in LA for the night. So I got in after rush hour, and didn't matter because there still was a lot of traffic. And a drive that normally would take me about 90 minutes actually took me 2 hours. It took me 2 hours, but I made it to the Getty Center and parked my car and took the amazing tram ride up to the Getty main building. And I hadn't been to the Getty Center since before the pandemic. I just didn't make it up there. So it was just so nice. It was like my first visit back to the Getty, and I'm going to see one of my favorite artists. Wonderful. So I get there, I see the signs, I take my little selfie next to the big poster of it, and then I get to experience what one of the things I love about the Getty is that you get to be up close and personal to the art. And there's no barriers, just there's a little line, there's people checking you, make sure you're not touching stuff. But you can get pretty close. And for someone like me who wants to really see how the artists chipped away to make that sculpture, or how they painted something, or look really close at the brush strokes. You get to do that at the Getty Center. You get to get close. So I'm enjoying this beautiful, wonderful experience looking at all of her work, just like phenomenal, just phenomenal moments for me, realizing that the stuff is here, realizing, the relationship with Camille Claudel and Rodin and how close it was and how their work was mirrored so much, leads you to the question, who took from who, which came first. Um, but her work was and is so emotional and so raw. And there's a lot of things going on there. And if you know the whole story of her, and how she was institutionalized and was not allowed to do work at a certain point, and almost 40 years where she was just locked away. And you think about what was lost, it's heartbreaking. But what she left us was just so phenomenal. So I see all my beautiful Camille Claudel sculptures. I look at a few other things, walk in the garden, because that's what I do. I do gardens. Um, and I said, okay, it's time. I got to get ready to get back on that road. And so I walked through the garden and walked up through this. They have this wonderful little reflective fount or stream that runs in the back in the Getty Garden, where you can walk up and listen to the water as it hits different parts. Unfortunately, it was dry right then. It wasn't running, but I did the walk. I got up to the top and I said, okay, I'm going to sit here for a minute, compose myself, deep breaths, Gail, because you're about to get on the 405. And if you know, you know, it's a thing. So I'm sitting there and this amazing woman walks by me. This woman who, I don't know how old she was. She could have been 70. She could have been 80. She could have been 90 for all I know, but she had the most amazing face. There were all these beautiful lines on her face. I won't call them wrinkles, they were lines. There were lines of places she's been and things she's done and the life she's lived. She was just a phenomenal looking woman. And she was a volunteer at the Getty. Oh wait, my dream gig. She was volunteering at the Getty, and she was talking to me and she was like, "So what did you see? What did you enjoy?" And I was explaining my love of Camille Claudel and all those wonderful things. And she said to me, "Oh, are you an artist?" And my brain froze. And my brain said, "No, I'm not an artist." And I said that to her. I said, "No, I just love art." We finished our conversation and I got my car and I drove home, and that stuck with me. And it stuck with me for more than a day. It stuck with me for like a week. And then it stuck with me for a month because someone asked me that question again because we were talking about art. And it stuck with me a little longer. And then I said, "Oh, I am an artist. And why am I having such a hard time saying I am an artist?" Because in my brain, I'm thinking an artist is someone who's created these great masterpieces and has exhibits, and everybody they were struggling in some little have the little studio. But you know what? An artist is a person who enjoys and appreciates art and creates something that may make one, two, five, 10 people experience something. And I would like to think that's what happens when I take my photographs or when I write a poem or I share my passion with someone. So I am taking it. I am an artist. And I thank this woman who I did not get her name, but her face is forever in my mind. I see that life lived, and I think to myself, this is how you live. This is how you nurture. This is how you be.